Route 66, Route 66. We'll drive around the classic cars, pick up chicks and biker bars. It doesn't matter where we are, as long as we're on Route 66, Route 66.
Okay, Insane Sam here. This is the fourth day of your 10-day adventure across Route 66. Today we're going to take you through some of the most beautiful parts of Route 66. You're going to go all the way through Kansas and over halfway across Oklahoma. Other than going through Oklahoma City, the roads are pretty open and you're going to cover more miles than you've been able to cover in the first 3 days. But before we get going, let's get you today's directions. Even though there's Route 66 signs all along the way, they can be inaccurate or confusing, and without a good set of directions, you're going to get lost. So, go to route66mc.com, go to the right-hand column on the home screen, and find Get Directions. Put Joplin in the Leaving From box and Weatherford, Oklahoma in the Heading To box. Click on Get Directions, and turn-by-turn directions between those two towns are going to pop up. Okay, let's get going. On the Kansas border, you're going to find Hogs and Hot Rods. This building is from 1928, and the patio out back has a bar made out of a 1934 bus. This is a great spot. They try to have biker events every weekend, like wet t-shirt contests, chocolate pudding wrestling, and weenie bites. I really like chocolate pudding wrestling. Unfortunately, they only have beer and wine in there. Okay, on to Kansas. There are fewer than 20 miles of Route 66 going through Kansas, but there are a satisfying 20 miles passing through Galena, Riverton, and Baxter Springs. Galena's Main Street looks like it must have looked 80 years ago. Be sure to stop by Cars on the Route Snack Shack. It's modeled after a gas station in the movie Cars. The Galena Murder Bordello, which is an abandoned whorehouse that was operated by serial killer Ma Staffelbeck, is across the street from Cars on the Route. I think it's run by the Cars on the Route people. Ma, her husband, and two of her sons supposedly robbed and killed over 50 guys during the 1890s. Their deal was they would drug a target, whack him in the head with an axe, strip the poor guy of all his stuff, and dump him into a mine shaft. Galena's Bloody Madam didn't die till 1909. Riverton has Nelson's Old Riverton store that used to be called Eisler's. It's been in operation since 1925. It has a grocery store and a deli. It serves lunch. Neat little stop-off. As you head toward Baxter Springs, you can go over the restored Bush Creek Bridge, which dates from 1923 and purports to be the only remaining Marsh Arch Bridge on Route 66. Marsh Arch bridges, try to say that 3 times fast, were designed by James Barney Marsh. Hundreds of them were built in the 1930s. They were called rainbow bridges because of their distinctive rainbow-shaped arches. Baxter Springs has been known as the toughest town in Kansas, the first cow town in Kansas, and the most robbed town in Kansas. There's a visitor center and an old Phillips 66 station. The Cafe on the Route and the Little Brick Inn, which is a B&B, are in a former bank building that Jesse James robbed. The former Murphy's Restaurant also was in a bank that was robbed in 1914. So I told you you're going to get all the way through Kansas today, and now you've done it. Onward to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has more miles of remaining Route 66 than any other state. The roads are good and you can make great time. The first place you're going to get is the Ogapa Indian Reservation. Somehow Bobby Troop forgot to mention this place when he wrote Get Your Kicks on Route 66, even though there's some action at the Ogapa Casino and at the Downstream Casino. The next town is Commerce, Oklahoma, which was Mickey Mantle's hometown. You can see his boyhood home at 319 South Quincy Street. There's a plaque on the front door with some interesting info. This is a quick stop and worth it, especially if you're a Yankees fan. There's a 1925 Marathon station in Commerce that opened in 1925. It's been a Dairy King since 1980. In April 1934, Bonnie and Clyde killed Commerce police officer William Campbell at present-day East 60 Road and Tahoe Drive. The folks at the Dairy King can tell you exactly how to get there and tell you the story about where and when it happened. Bonnie and Clyde were killed in Louisiana only a month after that shooting. The Coleman Theater in downtown Miami opened to a sellout crowd of 1,600 people in 1929. Don't miss the restored Marathon service station on 5 Main Street. For a quick bite to eat, try Whalen's Cuckoo Burgers with its distinctive cuckoo bird popping out of the front of the building. They've been serving burgers since 1961. At the south end of downtown, you're going to find Route 66 Custom Cycles and Route 66 Vintage Iron Motorcycle Museum. The museum has an antique motorcycle exhibit and an Evel Knievel exhibit with clothing and equipment that Evel and his son Robbie used in actual jumps. The last surviving section of the 9-foot wide Ribbon Road, which is a national landmark, is on the outskirts of Miami. This is a detour worth making. It'll cost you only a few minutes, but I wouldn't try it on a motorcycle. To get to the Ribbon Road from downtown Miami, skip the directions I've given you out of Miami. Instead, go south on Main Street and straight through out of town past the Route 125 sign turnoff. Eventually you're going to come to a T, go right, and follow it to the Ribbon Road. You can't miss it. You can ride this road all the way to Highway 69 and then take a left and go to Narcissa. Narcissa is a bump in the road with a few abandoned Route 66 buildings. In 1956, Russell and Arlene Kay opened the Buffalo Ranch in Afton. The Kays lured travelers to their gift shop and restaurant by showing off their herd of buffaloes. The Buffalo Ranch closed in '97, and the structure was torn down in 2004 to make way for a convenience store. But they still keep a few buffaloes out back, and you can go see them wandering around. Main Street in Afton's crumbling, but there used to be a real gem there until last year. They had a restored DX service station that had a private collection of 18 Packards, but the folks who owned them died and everything was auctioned off. What a shame. You can still see the DX station, but no Packards. Clanton's Cafe in Veneta has a giant Eat neon sign. The restaurant's been owned by the same family since 1927. The infamous Ma Barker and her gang are buried nearby in the Williams Cemetery. Of Ma, George, Herman, Doc, and Fred, only Herman has a grave marker. When you go into Chelsea, Oklahoma, you can follow directions and see the 1926 Pryor Creek Bridge. The Chelsea Motor Inn is the nicest spot to stay along this portion of Route 66. There are only 6 rooms and they are tidy. They get visitors from all over the world. The Chelsea Motel just down the street has a vintage sign, but the motel hasn't fared very well. For a while it housed some unfortunate down and out folks, but now it appears closed. Ed Galloway's Totem Pole Park near Foyle, 4 miles off of Route 66, has a 90-foot tall totem pole that they claim to be the world's largest. Claremore, Oklahoma is Will Rogers' hometown, and half the town's named for him. The Will Rogers Hotel was built in 1930 and had 68 rooms and 7 apartments. It still is the tallest building in Claremore and now houses apartments for senior citizens. The J.M. Davis Arms Museum and Historical Museum has the world's largest privately owned firearms collection. It has guns owned by Cole Younger, Emmett Dalton, John Wesley Hardin, Bonnie and Clyde, Pretty Boy Floyd, and Pancho Villa. It has every other kind of gun you want to see, including a giant tank right out front. When you leave Claremore toward Tulsa, you're going to go over what was called the Twin Bridges. One of them dates back to 1936 and is 24 feet wide. The other dates to 1957 and is 28 feet wide. These bridges are being replaced by new bridges that aren't going to keep the arches. If you look to your right when you go over one of these bridges, you can see the arches now at the entrance of Molly's Landing Restaurant and another at the end of Rogers Point Park. It'll be off to your right. Time magazine named Catoosa's Blue Whale one of the 50 best roadside attractions in the U.S. In 1970, Hugh Davis began construction of the Blue Whale as a birthday gift for his wife Zelta. It opened in 1972 and remained a popular swimming hole for years. Now you're in for a treat. The next town is Tulsa, which you're going to enter on 11th Street. 11th Street starts as a rural neighborhood and is lined with old buildings that once housed thriving businesses. Someone should do one of those then and now books showing photos of the old businesses and what's in them today. This is a great stretch of Route 66. As you get closer to downtown, you're going to pass a bunch of Route 66 motels. They're all vintage. The Desert Hills Motel is the nicest of these. The Campbell Hotel on Route 66 is my favorite Route 66 hotel. It opened in 1927 as the Casa Loma Hotel inside the Max Campbell building. The building originally housed the hotel, a barber shop, a beauty shop, a drugstore, and a grocery store. This place was abandoned for years, but now it's been restored as a hotel with 26 rooms, each that has a separate theme, including a Route 66 room. They have a small lobby bar that's a bit avant-garde and another bar in the hotel's restaurant. I like the lobby bar, but I usually hit Ed's Hurricane Lounge, which is an old-school biker spot with hot chick bartenders. The Double Shot Bar down the street is another good spot on 11th Street. To eat, try Tally's Cafe on 11th Street. It's a Route 66 standard. The El Rancho Grande is a family-run Mexican place with food that would be considered good in Texas. It has a cool sign with a vaquero swinging a lasso. Be on the look for an old 1950s Tasty Freeze that now houses an automotive business. And be sure to be on the lookout for the metal gold milk ice cream sign, which really should be viewed at night because it's lit up spectacularly. Okay, Tulsa ends the first part of your 4th day on your 10-day Route 66 ride. The next video is going to take you from Oklahoma City over one of my favorite sections of Route 66. But before you go to the next video, hit the subscriber button. That way you'll get notifications of when I post new videos, and you'll get postings of other information you might otherwise miss. Also, if you leave your comments on this video, I'll do my best to read them all and personally respond. Insane Sam out.